I think it's been a while since we've actually checked in on Kalp, so I thought it'd be fun to see how the lad's been doing recently, especially when he's playing something different. I don't think we've watched him play Mongols yet, and here on Danube, up against the Rus, I thought it might be exciting to see how things are popping different when you go down just 100 ranks. Because one thing I did notice when we've been doing a few of these games from players in the 200, 300 range is you get a very different style sometimes of Age of Empires, and also, even if it's an imperfect thing they're doing, I think it's definitely worth looking at for a mixture of like the potential of something that no one else is doing that could be refined by the higher level players, or also just seeing suboptimal plays and understanding why they're suboptimal. So that's why we're down here. I love to check on these. It also allows us to see upcomers as they rise. Kalp, we have seen a fairly competent player, usually floats around like the, I want to say 70 to 120 rank on the leaderboards. Currently sitting in 116th of 1,673 elo, just outside the top 100. Also has a secondary count of 50 games played, sitting at 124th on the leaderboard. So fairly capable player, easily getting 2 accounts quickly into that kind of ranking. Still has some way to go. Hasn't really got far in the tournaments we've had so far, but I see the potential in him. And I'm always excited to see where that's going to go in the coming year or two. On the other side, I haven't seen this guy yet. Robbie G 9800. It took 9,799 iterations, but this, ladies and gentlemen, well, this is the iteration to impress us all. Robbie currently sitting 171st place on the leaderboards. I know, it's not your Viper ranking, but it's still respectable, and let's be honest, it's more than most of us can achieve. And that's after 115 games, so he could easily quickly rise higher. Remember, when you have that kind of count of games, you very quickly can end up accidentally in a lobby with Viper in one game and then back to your elo rank 300 Andy the next. So he could just be getting whooped a little bit as he calibrates. Right now, Robbie has a respectable win percent at that point with 61%. So I think he's close to the mark, but this could end up being someone that just about cracks the top 100 by the time they're at the 200 game mark. And I don't know if that's going to be sheer skill or just spamming Rus, but we'll find out. As it's going to be Rus on Danube. I think this is the first time we've actually been treated to Rus on the Danube River map, the new one anyway. Mainly because a lot of players have been avoiding Rus because, well, everyone thought they were big brain and figured it out with just Horse Archer spam. But as we're now learning, there's still more tricks in the pocket that we're discovering. So excited to see how this game's going to play out, especially considering it's a War Hybrid map. I think that, especially these type of maps, the Rus have some unique kind of advantages. Remember, one of the cool things you can do as the Rus is you're able to convert your ships. So one popular strategy is you go for your tech up, you hold a little bit extra resource, and then once you actually tech up as the Rus, you take a chunk of your fishing ships, and then you convert them to attack ships for 70 wood and 60 gold each, as you can see here. And after 20 seconds, you have a military fleet, whereas your opponent can only start building military units out of a single dock, because usually they start with 1, maybe they have 2. But even when they do, it takes 35 seconds to build those individual units, is the comparative. So a very powerful spike timer for the Rus. I do think that Rus are potent at that point, but they're kind of overrated past that, mainly because the issue of Rus that they have is this kind of modularization of their ships to an extent, where like it's just one type of ship, right? You don't have any attack ship, remember, it's just an archer ship. But you can buff it up like crazy, right? You can get the extra health text, as you can see there. You get the extra armor. There's also the damage and the weapon range, right? There's so many cool things here if you just read through them all. The problem is that you have to research them. And the problem is that that only becomes an effective element when you have like 4 docks, right? When you actually got surplus docks to be able to take time to research these techs while still producing an army. And it's an issue that we've seen plenty of Rus players run into, is that they actually just don't have the wiggle room in the first 10, 15 minutes to be able to compensate for that. We've seen amazing comeback games for certain Rus players, but it usually comes to a case of they got knocked off the water, they get back on the water, they build like a network of 8 docks, and they get the relevant techs to make their their attack ships rather dangerous, right? Because there is a lot of danger that comes out of this Civ if they get their hands on a lot of these tech ups. Because remember, they juice the health of a lot of their different ships, right? The attack ships, I believe, is, yeah, when you get both of these, it goes up to like 800 health on each of those attack ships, or archer ships rather. Basically become attack ships. And then obviously the increase in your weapon range is pretty damn spicy for those units. But it's the issue is just that crawl up. It just takes too long. So kind of excited to see how that plays up against the Mongols, who are known to be a bit more dominant early on. I think if the Mongol player survives the initial onslaught that's going to come out of Robbie, now that he's gone up to feudal, where he pushes across the boats, then I could see the Mongol player dominating the waterfront. But you already see Kalp, he's smart about this. He preps for this, because on his side, he's got fishing boats out on the water he wants to protect. He's not ready with his tech up just yet. He does plop down the outpost that will be able to hold back a single attack ship, and that's all that Robbie's investing to begin with. Generation start is pretty decent as well for Kalp, actually. It would have been nicer to have been close to the shore, but you're kind of a gamble. You don't want to roll that far out. So he sticks here. He's got a forward Uv at the moment. Then he's got a secondary one close to his base that he can switch over to if he gets pressured. Overall, not that bad of a spawn. Gets a bit wonky for building more docks, but outside that, I think you can be quite content as a Mongol player with this. There we go, pushing through. Attack ship. You can see how hard the outpost actually hits here. Formidably so. And looks like the attack ship can't hang around. I like how this confuses people, by the way. It's an archer ship, but remember that hulks and such are called attack ships. So just remember that when we're talking about attack ships or roofs in this game, we're talking about the Lodges. Nice hits coming out right now from those Lodges, almost being able to sink the fishing boats, but it looks like they are repairing each other. It's a bit frustrating if you're Robbie right now. And you can see a secondary outpost now being dropped. Remember that this serves a later purpose. This is why I love Mongols on water hybrid maps. I think they are still incredibly underrated by a lot of players. Everyone's getting wet dreams about how amazing Delhi are, or how great the Rus are. Well, keep in mind that this Civ can deal with your water aggression courtesy of the cheap outposts at only 70 wood each. And then later on, that outpost network turns into a speed crawl, right? As it gives you fallback points, it gives you Yam movement speed boosters. It's incredibly scary for opponents to deal with. Scary amount of archer ships showing up now for Robbie. Just keeps pushing them out. Kalp is trying to protect himself only with outposts. Notice he hasn't even invested in the light junks just yet. Doesn't see it as a cost-effective solution. Instead, just continue to chain out those outposts. And it is working so far. I think for right now, for Robbie, he just wants this as a deterrent. He wants to slow down the food economy and reach castle quickly. It does look to me like Robbie's probably intending to go for a pretty atypical horse archer spam strat. Like, there's no signs of early knights. There's no signs of Iraqs. I don't see him playing in a man-at-arms up against the Mongols. If you do, you're playing at a disadvantage, remember, because if they match your man-at-arms, their ones actually get a speed juice. Yours are just giant slugs covered in armor. I think that's called a snail, technically. But yeah, it's just not worth doing, is what we're going to go with. So I would like to see either knights or horse archers, or later phase kind of Streltsy. So outpost goes down. And it looks like Kalp missed an opportunity to snipe Robbie out. Robbie is going to get the 4-5 power save wall down. Very cost-effective, remember. 3,000 health per piece. And he can always plop down a gate so his ships can move through, but his opponent cannot. Oh, and I think this is misplayed slightly. Wow, Kalp is getting away with this. The vision isn't there from the fishing boat, so he'll get this outpost down. Realistically, he should have been building this from the edge of the stealth forest so he wasn't seen, but looks like he's going to get away with it either way. And the outpost network is non-stop. I just love this. Kalp just understands the game. Remember, he's also saving up all of his stone. He hasn't invested in early military units, which means he can stick arrow slits on all of these and already has begun to. Such a cool concept. Think about how many players in this situation would have just dropped light junks, right? Light junks would have been their solution to stop the attack ships. That's all they would have done, right? Because the attack ships are quite formidable. Remember, it's 5 bursts of 8 damage per hit. Before reductions, of course. But just ignoring it, saying, nah, that doesn't matter at all. I'm going to make sure you're doing 0 damage, right? Because remember, outposts with the 50 missile resistance, it means that your shots are only doing 1 damage times 5. And luckily for Robbie, he does at least stop this outpost going up, but he has no way of slowing down Kalp's economy anyway. Or anymore. Yeah, just out of range. Remember, that's one of the wonky parts about these units. 5 tower range, you're not going to be able to reach this. Meanwhile, outposts sitting up at 8 tower range, they're going to be able to snipe you back. Now, the good news, if you're the Rus player in this situation, is remember that Rus fishing boats don't actually have to return to a dock to drop off. So getting forced off of X or Y fishing point isn't bad as long as you have another one. Because you don't care where it is in relation to docks. Like other civs, for example, another civ, if they had a dock here where the outpost is, they'd be screwed. They'd be like, oh, I need to build another dock. I can't return the food here because I get sniped on the way in. And now, continuous outpost crawl. Tech up, Robbie is going to make it up to the castle age, and he's dropping the rack. So, no. Okay. Caster curse, but I'm happy. We get to see someone different. It looks like everyone truly is bored of the horse archers. It does make sense to an extent when you consider what he might be up against. What do Mongol players like to build in this situation? Well, they're probably either thinking about going for man-at-arms with that speed booster or Lancers with speed. Either way, you're up against an armored unit. So Horse Archers lose their relevance, right? Because, well, you're not able to kite effectively due to Yam, and also your opponent on top of that is going to be heavily armored against your attack. So I like this very restrained choice out of Robbie. So many players would have just blindly went into the Horse Archers here, and I think it's game-losing strategy here. Oh, this just got uncomfortable for Robbie. Garrisoning on the outpost, and sinks one already. And remember, these fishing boats, they die quickly. He needs to back them away, in fact. He totally forgot about them. Well, not taking too much damage at the moment. They should actually be getting hit for more than this, feels like, but we'll be able to back them away. But remember, there's already another outpost here. The outposts are everywhere. Robbie has nowhere to stick these anymore. Maybe there's one spot over here. There's one spot left, and that's literally it. But I think Robbie is kind of done with the water now. He has to be. So he has to invest heavily into the front. I would love to see a second TC. The problem he has now is if he does it, he's waited too long. He would have needed to scale into a secondary TC 2 or 3 minutes sooner, because now you're at a point where Cal, with him now beginning the tech up almost complete, in fact, with 17 people working on it, he's going to start spamming out new units, and then he's going to get aggressive himself, especially considering he already has a network of outposts in position to utilize. Robbie's just swallowing sadness at this point. There was no other play either. You could have like maybe made these demo ships, but the outposts have been very smartly positioned by Calp. There's a few of them very close to the waterfront, but this one, for example, is a little bit deep. You'd have to waste 2, 3 incendiary ships just to try and blow it up. It's just not worth it. But you will have to find a way out. Because remember, unless you want to run all the way to the south and take what feels like a lifetime to reach your opponent's base, you're going to have to clear out the center here. You're going to have to actually siege through these. It's actually imperative that you get rid of them, just because of the fact that even if it wasn't in your way, you don't want to give your opponent that juice factor, right? If they're trying to retreat from you and they suddenly clip in the range of this, they're zooming, mate. They're Fast and Furious, whatever one we're on now. Fast and Furious, there's too many being made edition. Khan just trying to snipe out a few. Nice use of the Falcon. A lot of players don't do this, and it really kind of gets you because it's so much wasted opportunity. So he's using the Falcon to see over the tree line, so he's able to actually snipe out the villagers without coming in range on the side or revealing himself very obviously. So he's playing from blind fog, which means Robbie, he might occasionally be looking and seeing nothing. Because remember, it only temporarily reveals the person when they shoot at you. So hit and run done. Calp kind of happy with that. Eco front. Calp now with a 10 eco unit lead. Decent chunk of that is in the fishing fleet. Remember, 6 are out here on the front. Could even add more if you choose so as Calp at this stage, but looks like he's done with fishing for the most. Oh, sorry, no, he did have more. I'm blind to the south, so it's up to 10. And yeah, secondary docks. I like this. I was about to say, he should be expanding down here. I like that he gets a light junk out first. He sees that this attack ship's here, needs to get that out of the picture. And that means that Robbie is just done on the water. He really has nothing left. He needs to get a solution on land soon. Second relic is now being banked. I just don't know how many more you're going to get for free. Yeah, you're not getting it for free anymore. This is one of those matchups that can be very frustrating. Another reason why it's wonky to go man-at-arms compared to Horse Archers. It makes sense in this matchup, but look how much harder it is because of this. Because the Khan can just chase you down. If he wants, he can kite around you. He hasn't got the maneuver arrow anymore, but he can still snipe you down. There you go, pops him to the ground. Luckily for Robbie, this one's close to base. But any more of these relics, you're never getting, I don't think. Wait, was that a boom ship? It was. It wasn't a very good one. So crossbowman keeping pressure, and there's the siege workshop. So Robbie desperately needs this. Calp can just get his hands on. Yep, there it's already there. I was about to say improved siege engineering. He's building a Mangonel, but as soon as he moves into the base and sees that the siege workshops, he'll probably switch over into Springles. Is that free? Wow, free siege workshops. This is a bit dicey, actually, out of Robbie. Remember that Robbie's running out of woodline here. There's actually not that many trees left here, and he just dropped 3 of these siege weapon producing shops, right? Like, on top of that, if he wants to transition and he wants another type of unit, like an actual infantry or cavalry, most of the choices remaining to him that are logical require wood. So wood is very quickly going to become the limiting factor of the Roost player here. He needs to be careful. That Mangonel shot! Oh my god, the damage. Robbie, has he even realized? Okay, he does, just in time. That's about to get very dangerous. He's still going to maybe lose 1 or 2, but he does keep the Mangonel up. Springald always snipes him out. Chase him with the crossbows just to try and probe a little. That is a bit dangerous now for Robbie. Unless he wants to pull them off, he pull them back and heal them up. he now has a chunk of villagers that could easily just die to a single Mangonel shot. Also, keep in mind that Robbie did go for the movement speed. He got the greased axles already. That's how he's able to gap close on the Mangonel like that. So Calp losing his investment, not really getting anything for it. Even ends up losing the Khan. Really frustrating at this stage of the game. You want to have that flexibility, especially with these inflexible crossbowmen that usually move like slugs. So having the attack speed or having the maneuver especially would have been fantastic here. Well, Calp is definitely scaling better right now. I think if Calp wants, he could just hit Imperial. I just don't think you want to wait that long against a Roost player. You don't want to risk him coming back in off the back of someone like Streltsy, right? You don't necessarily get anything huge yourself. Yeah, you can juice up your own units a little, right? Make the crossbowmen better, make the lancers better, whatever. But ultimately, you haven't got that kind of big golden surprise waiting for you at the end of the rainbow, right? You haven't got, say, Streltsy or, Bombards would be nice, but really not needed. I actually think Mangonels are fantastic for sieging down base now. If you bother to watch just a few Mangonels, after all the buffs to their damage, like they're pretty effective at taking out buildings from range. So Robbie just trying to buy a little bit more time. He's not ready just yet. 4 or 5 Palisades will definitely help with that. How many relics did he get? 3? Okay, yeah, he done pretty well. He's definitely not getting his hands on these last 2. One's right next to the base of Calp. The other one's sitting in the center. I do think I feel like Calp should have built a temple. 200 wood plus. Yep, there we go. Finally, prayer temple's coming down now. But that plus the cost of shaman, like you could have easily paid for it back now. Oh no, 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 Calp, please, no, Calp. Okay, he realized it. He finally, thank God. I watched this happen for 2 minutes straight the other day, and it broke me. That was the true reason I took a 2-day break from streaming. It wasn't because it was Christmas. It was because I just couldn't handle what I'd seen. Thank God Calp is quick to grab it. Doesn't even drop that load off, right? Because honestly, you might as well have them run back, get that extra 50% take, because they're going to have to run back anyway. So just min-max efficiency after the inefficiency. Really hope they fix that. It's really buggy. The problem, folks, is that if you click your people into a gold vein and the step readout isn't already there, and also if they've dropped off somewhere else previously, they will run to that place instead of going to the true nearest. There's an issue with this with many things. Fishing boats have this as well. Let's say you start at one fishing point, they make their way down the river, and there's a dock right here next to them. They'll return to the original fishing dock, the original dock that they dropped their fish off at when you told them to, or they got produced out of. Really weird limitation. Hopefully that gets fixed in January, February. I think we're expecting a patch around that time. Fingers crossed. But Calp, there we go. We said about his ability to go up to Imperial if he wants. He does have that option available to him. Robbie is nowhere near. Robbie is still paranoid and building forces. More Mangonels. Like we said, this is a dangerous point. He's gone for a secondary TC now as well. And the reason he does this is because before, it would have been a nice luxury to boost your economy. Now it's a necessity because you just lost your safe wood line, right? So if you ever end up in a situation where you lose this army, you have to replace it, and you're especially going to need siege weapons again, you have to go to a more risky area to access that, right? Because this is now 40 your base. Calp already almost halfway towards his tech up. Where is he building it, actually? Am I blind? There it is. So White Stupa over here in his military district makes a lot of sense. Remember, this acts like an Uvu. So not only giving you that stone treacle, but allowing you to double produce units. And he is starting to build in those lancers. Only a few so far. I like that he's doubling down the layer of outposts. Remember that you can stick spring defenses in these. And also, your opponent might put a little bit of dent in this. Let's say you had a loose treacle with just enough to keep the yam speed going. They snipe out one, you possibly lose a fight, and then you can't retreat quick enough. This ensures you can always retreat or always double back in and chase, even if they took out some of your outposts. Wow, Robbie makes the choice to come out. He knows he has to go soon, right? He sees his opponents in the Imperial Age, so he understands just how far behind him he is. And it's not going to get better if he sits back and waits. Like I said, Mangonel's decent at getting rid of buildings. First outpost is down. Forces are amassing for Calp, and he can wait quite a while. You can see he intends to as well. He's building layer upon layer of the outpost. He's going to make sure Robbie wastes all of his time on this, while Calp continues to build his troops up. I think you're probably confident to go once you build the Springalds, right? That's the only thing you need here. Mangonels aren't even that important for you. You've got crossbowmen for the man-at-arms. We'll see. As got the War Junk now, this is a cool idea. He can't go on the waterfront, remember, because the Palisade is still here. But if it pushes to his side, this is going to be a huge booster up against the forces. Remember, you shoot for 120 damage. So for reference on a Mangonel, 3 shots kill it. And Springals don't get bonus damage against these warships either. It's something I think they need to change. I think this is such a stupid element of Age of Empires 4. Like, Springals, we've nerfed them. They don't have that great of a role outside dealing with Mangonels and Siege directly. Let's allow them to be a way of getting back on water as well. I don't think that makes them broken. I think that makes them balanced. But the problem is that now it's Bao Shuans. Bao Shuans have splash attack as well. So those only 70 damage. It's 70 damage you don't really answer in any form. Also, ridiculous range, remember. Sitting up at that 9 tower range. Currently, these Springals, for reference, 10 tiles, because Robbie still has no access to Imperial. There it is. Look at the damage! Second shot coming in. Can he get it off? He could have cycled them to get a second shot off, but you saw how hard hitting that was, right? Several man-at-arms losing half of their health. Do not underestimate the power of these warships. A lot of people in Sleeping on, they think they're absolute dog water, they're crap, but not worth building. And I agree in certain situations. You have to think of the warships as siege weapons, mainly. So, more importantly, you have to think of them as land attackers. If you're building these warships to win on water, you're probably not doing it right. In fact, if you think about it, Bao Shuans are better in a lot of ways. Because remember, it's the pop cap, so it's pop cap 6 versus the 4, but it's an extra 15 seconds to produce. And then look at that gold cost, right? That golden wood cost. It's a big booster over it. I think actually Bao Shuans might be slightly better in my opinion than Carracks. I like the stats a bit more. Because Carracks, if I recall correctly, are 1400 HP. Bao Shuans might be more valuable than Carracks actually. Because, well, as you can see, 2000 HP is a huge amount of HP that you have to get through to kill. So, yeah, I think Bao Shuans definitely are probably the best tier 4 unit on the water. Also remember, it's tough to combat this. You're playing as the Rus, so your only option really is boom ships. And he's not even doing that. He's actually building fishing boats for some reason. I just don't get it. Vision? I guess it's vision. But he has vision anyway. He also right now has control of Sentinel. Oh my god! He lost so many troops here! How many was that? Oh my god, Robbie! Did that just end the game? We know now about Bao Shuans here, and he's busy losing the game. His wood line got sniped. Oh my god. I saw a few Lancers riding to the north, and I thought, small raiding force, something's going to happen in this war that's going to be more interesting. But apparently, Robbie never actually noticed that small raiding force. That small raiding force got such absurd value. They must have sniped, I want to say, at least 15, 20 workers. We saw the numbers, right? Kalp is doubling him up. Even if you equate the snipings of the Khan every once in a while, the loss of his fishing fleet, the numbers still don't add up unless he lost a huge chunk of his economy. And considering there were like 3 workers left there on that wood line, that's what happened. And I understand why GG's out at that point. As soon as you lose that wood line, you do not have the resources to replace or build a bigger army, right? You understand at that point, you're playing a resource race and you've already lost, right? Like, you think you've just begun the race, then you get the notice that your opponent actually, whoa. We actually had the race yesterday. You got a DQ, didn't turn up. Because at that point, you lose one army, you can't replace it. You look at Kalp. Kalp is so healthy. He's not only teched up past you, he's at a point where his economy is so stabilized that he can lose his army 3 times over and still have surplus. And that's the beauty of the way Kalp plays that. That is kind of the way that Age of Empires plays in general right now. I don't think it's very rare that we get this kind of all-in early play, or we get like this decisive fight that just one fight wins it because it's too hard to replace an army. Usually that's a ripple-on effect. I guess what I'm getting at here is right now, a lot of games come to an attritional slog, I feel like. It's attritional warfare more than direct warfare win, if that makes sense. In that you play until you don't have resources. So sniping economy has always been a very important element of games in general. But I do think that Age of Empires gives you a lot of safe resources. It takes quite a while to get through your initials. And I think also the ability to just replace them so quickly. I don't know how you necessarily address that. I mean, one way is you say, like, oh, we don't like this whole concept of late game you having 10 plus racks, so how about we limit the racks, but I don't like that idea either. Then we're going down a road of trying to balance the game like Command & Conquer. Remember, the way Command & Conquer works, for anyone who hasn't played it, is that you have one command menu to produce units, and if they are of X type or Y type infantry or like, tanks or whatever, they have a timer, and as you build more military buildings of that type, it decreases the time to produce those units, but you're not producing them out of the individuals. It's just like, it's a collective manufacturing process. I don't think we go down that route. I think it's something we're just going to have to work out. I haven't got the greatest solution off the top of my head. It's something I've been thinking about recently, because I do think there is something to be said about the issues around AoE 4 being such a macro-heavy game as opposed to micro. Because I do like the idea of these small, awesome plays, right? Like, if you think of some of the stuff you've seen in StarCraft over the years, right? If you think about some of the things you've seen in AoE 2 over the years, we don't really get that level of stuff because, well, for a start, like, shots are always accurate from archers. We don't really have many unique abilities. The Khan, I would love to see more units that are designed in like the concept of some of what the Khan does added to the game, right? Where you've got like maneuver arrows and attack arrows. Units that have abilities that do cool things. Because the Arbaletriers seem conceptually cool, but we rarely ever see them used. That could maybe be changed if Start Stepping wasn't as strong, but I don't expect them to nerf that. But overall, like, more abilities, like what the Lombo have as well, would in my eyes, freshen the game a lot more. It would create a higher skill cap, and I think it maybe in some ways would alienate players because you get the issue like StarCraft had to a certain extent where it's like, oh, new players feel overwhelmed. That is one good thing I think Age of Empires 4 has going for it to a degree, is that there's a degree of simplicity to it while also having that depth to access that means that a player can come in a year or 2 or 3 years later, and although they may be at disadvantage because everyone else who's playing the game already understands the game, they can still pick it up and play it, right? But I think the issue we run into is, like, right now, I would love to see some alterations so that that easy to play, hard to master element has more depth on the mastery side. Because while it is a highly skilled game, I do understand why some people are returning to, like, the Age of Empires 2 or the StarCraft, where that does have certain appeals over this game. Because this game was definitely trying to appeal to a wider market. But maybe you're part of that wider market. Maybe you're one of those old people. Maybe you're sitting there going, oh, I wish it was the old days still. But regardless of how you feel, I'm sure you want more Age of Empires 4. I mean, I'm sure you enjoyed that one. Kind of a crazy way for it to end in the end, but we have plenty of those and plenty of wackier ones over across on the YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe there. And be sure to check us out live when we do go live. That's where you should follow to get that notification, by the way, so you can catch all the action. Because I can guarantee that, well, some of these games will make it to the channel. Some just fall into the oblivion of Twitch rods, never to be seen again. Except by you. See you soon.